Hello and welcome to my channel on Ancient and Chinese Astrology. I am professional astrologer Zagata from the website 100%astrology.com, and I would like to make a video about how divination can help one get the maximum out of the situation. I will share a real-life horary question, specific astrological question asked to me by a client, and how thanks to divination he was able to get much more than he hoped or he even knew was. So very interesting case. So let's now, for those of you that have not, this is my channel, Ancient and Chinese Astrology. I started recently. I urge you to check it out. My latest video was about the benefits of divination and why astrologers should not look down on divination. By astrologers, I mean those that know only natal astrology and don't use divination. Horary astrology is also actually a type of divination, because it contains it doesn't have a root, so to say. So there is there can be sort of a psychic element in by that I mean you can have cases where you get an empty chart, whereas you can't get an empty horoscope. But an empty chart means that the client does not ask a question sincerely, and as a result of this, the chart doesn't work. Basically, the astrology, it's not helping, because the querent is not sincere, the asking part is not sincere, whereas with natal astrology we don't, there is no such thing. So again, this horary astrology is called questions. It should also be called, I like to call it contextual astrology, because context is paramount, as I will show here as well. So my point is, also in this video I spoke about a method that's very dear to my heart, namely plum blossom numerology or region numerology. I will also leave a link in the description of this video as well. Extremely useful method that I have incorporated in my professional practice. And so let's get started. So this is the question that I was asked. So let's some background. And also what I should have said in this video about divination, the benefits and advantages of divination over natal astrology, is personal data. It's very liberating, divination, because we can disclose almost pretty much all the information without compromising any personal, without breaking any confidentiality, etc. with the client. Because obviously, let's get real. People don't care about the public. It doesn't matter to you whether I will say the name of the client, or the city of the client, where the client lives, the specific company where he works at, etc. By the way, I don't know that. Obviously, I know the name of the client, but I did not know where he worked. I did not even know the field that he works in, and also the company. But this doesn't matter. We don't require this information when we do divination. So this man contacted me last year, and he had this interesting situation where he was he received an offer at his company where he worked, and he also received another offer from another company that was a job offer. They were inviting him to they were offering him to hire him. So he explained the situation to me, and again, this is crucial with formulating the question, which is why I always advise my clients or potential clients to call me and to text with me, to chat with me on Viber or some other platform, but to help them formulate the question, because formulating the question is essential. in divination, and not just Horary astrology, any type of divination. So the bottom line is, after he explained to me the situation, the bottom line is, again, the core of the question is, and this is how I offered him to the way I saw it, and he agreed. Should I stay at my current company or move to the other one, the other company that's that's offering to hire him? So this is again, anything else that, for example, the new offer at his current company, this is, secondary, tertiary in importance. Always focus on the big picture. So I'm following the tradition, obviously. The way these questions are examined, and this does not mean that only one way is the correct way, but especially with divination. But the way it is, the ascendant and its lord showed the current situation, and the descendant and its lord show the change if the client decides to make the change. So this is the status quo, this is the change. So looking at the chart, it's really yes, I'm using whole sign houses with Horary. I've been using them for I forget now, I believe 9 years. I used quadrant houses for the first few years, but then I switched to whole signs in Horary. So anyhow, the point is, here is the data. As you see, the point is, the seventh house is much stronger than the first house. In other words, this shows that it will be much more beneficial for the client, for the querent, to change his job. Why? Well, here's the astrological rationale. The lord of the ascendant is Mercury, of the Gemini ascendant is Mercury. Mercury is not only Mercury is in the seventh and hence automatically in detriment, but Mercury is also combust. Very negative testimony, although for Mercury it's not as negative as for the other planets, but again we have two very negative testimonies. So also the seventh lord is Jupiter. Jupiter is in its triplicity, and Jupiter is in the ninth house, but Jupiter is strongly advancing in the midheaven, so it's in the 10th by quadrant, so what we call strongly advancing. And also Jupiter is received by its domicile lord Saturn, so Jupiter is in very good condition. Very good condition, whereas I'm not saying excellent because it's not in a stake, and it's not oriental, but Jupiter is of the sect and rejoicing. But the point is, Mercury is also received because Mercury applies to its domicile lord with a strong sextile. Although again, the issue is that the seventh lord is again much stronger, and it's not afflicted. Sure, this superior square by Mars is afflicting the seventh lord somewhat, but it's separating. And also another testimony for the seventh house, in other words for the change, is because the moon applies to the sun in the seventh house. So the moon applies to a planet in the seventh house and not to a planet in the first house. So although this is a smaller testimony, but still it is a testimony for making the change. The only positive testimony, advantageous testimony for the ascendant for remaining is that the North Node, the head of the dragon, is in the ascendant, is in the first house, but the domicile lord of the North Node is afflicted, very afflicted. So this testimony is somewhat reduced. Of course, with the North Node in the ascendant, the South Node is automatically in the descendant. So this was my my conclusion, and I strongly recommended to him that he, because the chart shows categorically that making the change would be much more beneficial to him. Now, speaking of Plum Blossom numerology, this is this is the chart, and this is the now in my article I showed here various ways of drawing up a hexagram. Now with Horary astrology we have just the, taking the time, and that's it to have a chart. Whereas with it's just, this is the method. But with Plum Blossom numerology, with DG numerology, we have over 10 methods of erecting trigrams and hexagrams. And this doesn't mean that again. It's just it's how shall I put it? It's more. I don't like the word subjective, but it's more more intuitive, more psychic, if you will, a little bit. But anyhow, the point is, I'm using the date and time method. In other words, for people who are just watching this out of curiosity, or who would like to somewhat get some knowledge about this, just as we're using time, as you see, the 10th of December 2021 at 3:50 p.m. Just as we're using time to erect the astrological chart by which we judge the past, the present, and the future, it's the same here with Plum Blossom numerology. We're converting time into trigrams and hexagrams, and also the Chinese calendar. In other words, this date here in this time looks like this in the Chinese calendar, and based on the formula of the date and and time, this is how we get the trigrams and the hexagrams. Briefly, not many people are practicing this method, especially outside of Asia or outside of China. But still, I will explain briefly, in case someone is eager for knowledge someday, would like to get a practical example, would like to see how things are done, etc. So we have two trigrams. We have it's called Qi in Chinese, and this is Yong, or better in English, it's called subject, and this is object, or we could also say this is the body, this is the function. But it's best to say this is the trigram of the querent, the person asking the question, and this is the trigram showing the quesitive, what it is asked about, if you will, using Horary astrology terminology. So the trigram without the moving line shows the querent, and the trigram with the moving line shows what is asked about, the quesitive. So what we see here is that both trigrams are Ud. By the way, I made these myself. I calculate them by hand. And made a screenshot with the Chinese Chinese astrology chart for the date from this free software that I've given in my articles, 4 pillars, for the free version. The point is, we have two trigrams which are of the same element. They're supporting each other. Namely, the querent is represented by Sun. In other words, wind, and the quesitive, what he's asking about, is represented by Zhen, by thunder. And what we see here is that, so the question is, should I stay or should I go? This is if he stays. And as you see, the nuclear, and so the nuclear trigrams, they show the middle. This is the beginning development, this is the middle, and this is the final development. But these trigrams are crucial, the original ones. And we see that in the second one we have metal, namely Qian, sky, heaven, and we have Dui, lake. They are supporting each other. However, the lake, the Dui, is controlling, destroying the querent trigram. Very negative for the second, for the middle development of the situation. In other words, if he chose to stay, he would be controlled. He would be under the severe power of the employer. Next, by the way, this is the most negative for those that don't know. Being controlled, being destroyed is the most negative interaction. And the final hexagram shows how things will end. Here we have also metal, namely double Dewey, double lake, and again this lake, the function trigram is destroying the original querent trigram. Extremely negative, outright. This, in a way, one could say that the plum blossom numerology is even more telling in this example. Get out, don't stay at your current job. And also we always have to take into account the energy of the cosmos, because it can change, it can modify or even change, overturn the conclusion. So we see that the most important factor here is the month, obviously, because it's the season and it's the rat, it's winter. So the rat, both trigrams are supported by the rat, are produced, which is very good. But we are given the very negative conclusion so far. We'll need extremely strong testimony that strengthens, actually it's not even possible, that strengthens the querent trigram, but both trigrams have the same element, so it's a done deal basically. But the year and the day are controlled by both trigrams, and the month destroys, the hour destroys both trigrams. This is according to their essential natures, inherent natures, whereas if we take into the three harmony combo, this will be transformed into water, but I would rather not do this. Anyhow, the point is, there is nothing that in the cosmos, in this chart, that suggests that there can be some overturning of the conclusion. So the conclusion is absolutely. And by the way, the final nail in the coffin is the hexagram. The final hexagram, it's number 58, which is pure lake. It's Dewey. So this hexagram is called 6 clash hexagram. Out of 64 hexagrams, there are only 8 that are 6 clash hexagrams. They show conflict and misfortune. So again, this is absolutely unanimous, showing get out. Don't remain at your current job. And now let's get into the interesting bit. The native, he had never used my services. He decided to trust my prediction, and he informed his employer that he would be leaving, and choosing another company. And watch out what happened. Just pay attention. 3 days later, the employer offered to the client a higher position with a higher salary and much more freedom to organize his own team, etc. And so what's happening? What was happening is extremely intriguing. Why? Because the native, he emailed me and said, what do I do now? I mean, is the question that I asked, has it been resolved? I mean, in other words, has a new situation arisen that warrants asking another question? Because has the situation changed? Because what I asked, and look what happened. And this is why, again, I'm not saying some astrologers could have answered differently, but for me it was, after carefully going over the history and examining the communication and how he asked, etc., how I helped him formulate the question. In other words, looking at the bird's eye view of the overall situation, the bird's eye view is the following. The bird's eye view is, should I stay here, my current, or should I move? That's the overall. The fact of the matter that they all of a sudden they were proposing to give him a raise does not change the overall question. Why? Because again, the overall question is, should I stay or should I move? And I told him this. Furthermore, I also told him that that if he wants to ask me a second question and hence pay a second fee for the question, for different question, I would refuse him because it's not about the money, it's about being of service, it's about helping the client get the most. And again, my conclusion, and I was adamant, is the bird's eye view of the situation is, should I stay or should I go? Regardless of, again, the initial offer, now the race, etc. These are secondary. So and this was my my conclusion to the client, and I told him, and also, and I asked him, ask yourself, what has changed in the last three days? Have you gotten so much smarter? Have you gotten so much more skilled that they're offering you a raise in the new team, or something else is going on? So again, why are they offering you this once you inform them that you are leaving? Once you notify them. So the point is that the client, after thinking about it, he decided to stay at his current job with accepting the raise. And he said, I've worked with this company. I know the managers, the employer, etc. I have background here, etc., etc., etc. And I said, it's your choice, it's your life, it's your decision. Obviously, I respect your decision. As an astrologer, I'm providing information. It's up to you. And again, this is important to know. I mean, in cases where there is where the querent, the client has a lot of has power, has choice, because in many questions the client doesn't have this, and so then what we call, it's not free will, but anyhow it's choice. Now it's in other words, astrology is not forcing you to do anything. It's in this case, not talking about the influences of the planets, but in this case it's it's showing what will happen, but it's up to you, it's up to the client to decide whether you will heed this information, this prediction, or not. And obviously the consequences will be for you either way. But the point is, he decided to do this, and I honored his choice, and I said, sure, just keep me posted. And what's interesting is that 6 months later, he contacted me inquiring about offering a consultation service with me, and he actually told me that he decided to quit his company, even though he changed his mind. Even though they offered him a raise, he decided to quit his company and move to the other company. And it has been like 6 months or something. I don't. And he's incredibly happy that he trusted me, that he listened to my predictions. And I'm very glad that he did, because as I showed and explained, the charts were very pretty unanimous about the conclusion, and that it's much better to leave. And so the reason I'm making this video, and again naming it as how divination helps to get the maximum out of the situation, is if there are some natal astrologers, meaning astrologers that use only natal astrology, they don't know horary astrology or some other divination, such as Game of Hope, Lenormand, or Tarot, or talking about again traditional divination methods that allow specific predictions, such as this one. And so the point is, there may be some natal astrologers, although I doubt it, but there could be, that would say, you know what, you could get this from the natal chart. Well, folks, let's think this through. Now, examining the natal, again, depending on what the client orders, whether it's an audio oral consultation, or whether it's on Viber or Zoom, or whether it's written annual predictions, whether they're the general ones or the detailed ones, again, depending on the service, the astrologer would, examining the annual horoscope with all the techniques, ancient astrology, or even Chinese astrology, but speaking ancient astrology here, the astrologer would definitely, the seasoned astrologer, would definitely be able to say that you will get a promotion this year. Now, if the astrologer, again depending on the service, if the astrologer has to, if the client has ordered, the astrologer to divide the year into 12 horoscopes, into 12 horoscopes, or 13 horoscopes, depending on the monthly horoscopes, the monthly method of dividing the year. This will give 12, 13 more charts, and the astrologer, upon examining them all, the natal astrologer would or should be able to say, you will get a promotion this year, and it will happen this month. And it could be narrowed down even more than just the month. But the point is that for most people, that would be really, really good. However, notice that the native got, first of all, he got an offer prior to the race, and then he got a raise upon informing them that he would leave, and then he chose to leave for the other company. And I don't know whether the other company offered him more money or not. It doesn't matter in this case, but probably more. But it doesn't matter in this case. What matters is that the seasoned astrologer would be able to tell the client, you'll get a promotion this year, you'll get a raise, or possibly you'll get 2 raises. But again, folks, so much work, and notice, even if the seasoned astrologer is able to do that, how are they going to differentiate? So you're going to get 2 raises. Are you going to get them from the same company? Are you going to quit your job and move to another company? This would require so much work, and it's not even you have to it's not even certain that you are going to be able to isolate this and to see it and to isolate it. It requires again, I'm not sure how many astrologers can do that. I'm not entirely sure whether it's really possible. And this is just one example, because there are other examples where, again, it's stretching natal astrology to, even if it were, let's say it's possible. Sure, it's possible. Let's say it's possible, but how many clients can you take? Do you understand why ancient astrologers served kings, emperors, etc.? They served a select clientele because the level of specificity that you're expected to get is so high that you have to study the life of the native. All the time. You have year by year, all the time. You're a personal astrologer of someone, and you have to know their life and their chart inside out. So whereas this is the big advantage of divination, and how. Again, with this divination, let's again, even if he had chosen to stay, which would have been a mistake, nevertheless, just by using this service, contacting a good astrologer, he got a raise. I don't know again details, but this raise over the months, the years, is dozens of times, if not hundreds of times, worth the money he paid for asking the question. And I'm not measuring this in money, but just to illustrate the tremendous benefit of divination. And by the way, speaking of this, this is getting really, really tricky here, because are we saying that is the natal horoscope showing that he would get 2 raises? Well, wait a second. I thought that he had a choice. He made a choice. You see what kind of conundrum we're getting ourselves into by thinking about this. It's because the querent made the choice. The querent made the choice first to stay and then to leave. So are we saying that the natal horoscope, or the annual, the natal, the annual, and the monthly charts showed in advance that he would do this? Again, this is it's mind-boggling. It's so deep. It's so interconnected. But the point is, folks, let's not get into this. This is not the time or the place. The point is, this video. The point is that by using divination, I'm very happy to have helped this native. He was able to get the maximum out of the situation, and that's when doing unambiguous delineations and predictions, the client understands that future shows whether the astrologer and diviner is correct or not, and how good they are. And the point is now that this client has seen for himself and has experienced the power of ancient astrology and Chinese divination, he will know what's possible. So yes, so again, use divination, whether it's me or some other seasoned astrologer, diviner, etc. Use divination, because again, by divination we're trying to figure out, to guess the thoughts of the divine, of God, call it what the infinite ocean of consciousness. So it was given to us to do this, to help ourselves. Again, never to hurt others, to help ourselves. So again, I hope this was instructional. This is my YouTube channel, Ancient and Chinese Astrology. If you're resonating with what I'm doing, I would appreciate it if you subscribe, if you like. If you have a comment or question, I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.